UFC 327 is happening this weekend. And in the main event, we will have Yuri Prohaska versus Carlos Alberg fighting for the vacant light heavyweight championship. So we will be crowning a new light heavyweight champion after Alex Pereira vacated the title to move up to heavyweight to fight for the interim light heavyweight versus Cyril Gane at the White House card, to become the first fighter to win a title in 3 different divisions. I would have rather seen him stick in the light heavyweight division and either fight this new contender in Alberg or finish the trilogy with Yuri. Sounds like the trilogy could still happen. Dana White says, that there's a chance Pereira might move back down to light heavyweight. I don't think so. He doesn't seem like he wants to deal with that much of a weight cut really anymore. Especially since it sounds like his most recent contract is going to be his last one. I think he's content to just stay at heavyweight. Yuri said he's fine moving up to heavyweight to get that trilogy. I think if he loses, maybe he might do that. But I would like to see the trilogy, but what can you do? You get, you got to take it what you get. But I do think this is going to be a good fight either way. And I'll get into that later in the video on my thought on the fight. But before I get into the main card and talk about the fights, there's 2 things I want to cover. First one is congratulations to Mighty Mouse. I was a big fan of his. I got him on my Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. I was watching it when he was, going on that winning streak. Still, to me, one of the greatest highlights finishes you see in the UFC is when he threw the guy up as the guy was coming down. He got ready in position to latch an armbar. So when the guy at the ground, boom, he latched in, made the guy tap. Like, still a cool highlight reel finish to this day. And I just felt bad for him because he never, in my mind, never got the respect he should have got when he was fighting the UFC, doing all that. And it wasn't until he got to 1 that I feel he got the respect over there from the 1 championship crowd. And then I feel that since he started his YouTube channel, when breaking down fights, I feel he has started to get more respect. The respect I feel he should have got while he was actually fighting, right? So just, I'm glad he's getting that respect now. But just congrats, DJ, on that reward. The next one is RIP to Chuck Norris. Now, I'm a huge Chuck Norris fan. I grew up watching Walker, Texas Ranger. He was a big reason why I got into martial arts and wanted to learn martial arts as a kid. Especially wanted to learn like karate or taekwondo. He made me love the roundhouse kick because that was his like signature kick. He would finish the bad guy off with at the end of the episode on nearly every episode. And he really, the meme culture was brought up because of him, and it was the first celebrity that I can think of that got popular off of that. And he owned it. He fed into it. He thought it, which I think was just so cool for a celebrity to do. And it made me smile when he died. And there's posts on whether it be YouTube or whatever platform who were making those kind of comments because he loved him. He fed into him. He thought they were awesome. And so just for me, someone who watched Walker, Texas Ranger, then when I became a teenager, watched his movies from the 80s that, helped made him popular as far as, Lone Wolf McQuade, Delta Force, Missing in Action, Invasion UFC, I would put in there, Invasion USA, not UFC, my bad, Invasion UFC, I almost said it again, Invasion USA. I was able to watch those ones when I got my teenage years, and it's a sad thing, but you know what? RIP, you will be missed. One of the greatest American martial artists to come out, and has one of the greatest fights in in martial arts cinema history with, excuse me, sorry about that, Bruce Lee and Way of the Dragon. So, R.I.P. to Chuck Norris. Every fan, like me, will miss him. Now, with those two things out of the way, let's get into the main card. So the first fight on the main card is Cub Swanson, veteran of the UFC. Could very much be his last time making the walk to the octagon, or one of the last, versus Nate Landwehr. And I think this is really going to come into a striking battle. Now, both of them, they can grapple. They grapple in different ways. You look at Cub Swanson, and I think especially because he's the better, more overall well-rounded mixed martial artist. Nate Landwehr isn't, and Cub might mix it in. Landwehr really uses his grappling as opportunistically. When they do get when they get their opponent down, look for different submissions. Ground and pound, relatively the same. Both, I would say, Cub Swanson might have better takedown defense, but they both have solid takedown defense. Both can get back to their feet if they get taken down. I would say Nate Landwehr might be a little better at wall walking, but overall, their grappling is not where their bread and butter comes from. That comes from the striking, and they are two different kind of strikers. In Cub Swanson, you have a guy who's very much a flow fighter, so essentially he tries to use fluid combos. He likes to, use circling motions to not only just create angles to throw his strikes, and also so he can pivot at the end of his combinations, at the end of his strikes, so he can avoid getting countered by his opponent. And he'll do that by sometimes stepping or using slips or rolls to do that. And he incorporates his kicks a lot more. Landwehr really just uses his kicks to service his boxing. He's primarily a boxer. Cub Swanson really will implement his kicks at the end of his combos. He'll hit all the three levels, leg, body, head. One of his things, and this is one of my favorite techniques, but my favorite punch to throw is a Superman punch. Because if you do something like jab, cross hook, kick, jab, cross hook, kick, cross hook, kick, you can fake that kick and then boom, Superman punch. So, and that's a signature technique of his. So he's very much likes to control the tempo, control the rhythm, switch it up to confuse his opponent. Use that high fight IQ that he's gotten over the years. Along with, like I said, creating those angles to then have his punches come from weird use those angles to throw his strikes. They kind of come from weird, different angles. A little bit harder to defend from by, like I said, using the slips and whatnot. Maybe even using feints, targeting all three areas. But he does have a weakness. And this actually plays into the way that Landwehr likes to fight. And his weakness is opponents that like to pressure him and just walk him down, and aren't worried about his creative offense, where he might show him that, or might do the stuff I've said earlier, or throw some, spinning attacks or flying knees or cartwheel kicks. He's just going to walk him down, cut the cage off, and just start to go to town. Not allow him to control the pace, but instead push it. And that's kind of what you see in Nate Landwehr. He's someone who's primarily a boxer. Like I said, he doesn't do punches to kicks or kicks to punches like Cub Swanson does. Nate Landwehr uses his kicks to service his boxing because he's primarily a boxer. And he's not about power, he's about volume. He's about, instead of Cub Swanson doing 3, 4, 5 combos, he might do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He has got a overhand right as his primary power shot, but he doesn't live on it, right? His idea is, I'm going to throw a ton of volume. I'm going to walk you down. I'm going to cut off the cage. So if you try and escape, you can't. I'm just going to walk you down, push the pace. Um, if we get in close, I'll do some dirty boxing. I'm good at that. Landing some heavy hooks to the body in that case. Try and slow you down. Um, he's got no problem fighting in the pocket with like and limiting those hooks or just throwing those nasty hooks. And he's willing to just eat punches and keep on walking forward. And that's where you do see Cub Swanson struggle is when he's being walked out. And on top, he's 42. He's going to be slower. And that speed difference could end up benefiting Landwehr. But Landwehr does like to go forward. He doesn't really use a lot of head movement. He walks forward. He could get caught because of that. When he throws his kicks, he can telegraph. So he has gotten caught with that. So while he's younger, can absorb it. That is something where maybe Cub Swanson with that kind of fluid combo, flow style, might be able to what you want to call it. Excuse me, might be able to kind of take advantage of that and everything. But I do think that it's gonna come down to that, and I'm just gonna go with Landwehr. I just think he's younger. He'll be able to walk him down. I think that's gonna. Cub Swanson could even get a little tired if he's just really, not because offense struggle, and especially if he's not allowed to control the tempo. He gets brought into a brawl, which is what Nate wants. I think it might be just too much for him. And so as much as I'd love to see him win, especially if this is going to be his last fight, hate to see legends go out in a loss. I just think the youth, the fact that Landwehr can be able to take more shots, he's going to just push the pace, mix up body, head, and just tire him out, even with the fact that he is primarily a boxer. And I just think that even if Cub Swanson tries to go to all 3 levels, it's not going to be enough. So I got Landwehr because of that. Next fight is Dominic Reyes versus Johnny Walker. Now, I think this one, again, like the last fight, is going to be a striking battle. I don't think you're going to see a whole lot of grappling. But you're going to see 2 different kind of strike-ins here. You're going to see, in Reyes' case, a technical southpaw who's going to use a jab to set up. And if you do step in and you step into range, he's going to just blast you with that left hand really hard. Maybe, and he has dropped people with that or rocked them, but do something like that. He will use kicks at the end of his combos, especially if he can get your hands up. Then he might start doing some body work. But his whole thing is, let me keep you at range. I don't want you getting any closer than that. And let me keep you at the end of that range, long range, mid range most. And I'm just going to start teeing off on you, and you're not going to be able to. You're going to have to outbeat me using technique, not anything else. But where he does lack is if he does get pressured. You will see his offense start to struggle. He's not as good when the range gets close, which that's where Johnny Walker can kind of win the fight, because Johnny Walker does have a Muay Thai base. Now, he doesn't keep structure like you would think a typical Muay Thai fighter. Like when I'm taught in the gym, it's very much hands up. You don't ever get too wide. You will see that in Johnny Walker. He will get wide. Now, he will use a teep to keep you at range, but then when he's ready, he'll blitz in almost like a karate style blitz with his punches. And if he gets in close range, he can use elbows and knees to hurt you. But he also do spinning attacks, whether it be spinning back fist, spinning elbows, depending on the range. But on top of that, he'll use the tie plum. And that's getting the hands on the back of the head like here, pulling down, to land some knees, keeping the hand there, land an elbow, bring it back to land some more knees. So he will go in and out, to do that. And like I said, he'll use his teeth to keep you at distance until he's ready, and then he'll go in. Now his problem is he has been caught because he can keep his chin high, even though he started work on being more technical with his punches and even everything, like that, being more technical. He still can be caught with with punches, with his high chin, and when he does struggle against technical striker, he can be countered. So that's kind of what Dominic Reyes is. So I think it's going to be very interesting of if he gets too wild with his hooks, with his overhands, he doesn't kind of be tactical about his, entries and exits, and keeps him at range with teeps, oblique kicks until he's ready. I think you could see Dominic Reyes win it just by being technical, finishing his combos with kicks, keeping him at range, not overextending himself. So I'm going to go with Reyes. I just think he knows that if he wants to do a run for his title, he's got to go. But I think this is going to be a very interesting striking affair to see, can the wild, kind of crazy Muay Thai style that Walker has win? Or is the more technical striker going to pull it out? And then for the next fight, it's Curtis Blades versus Josh Hokett. Now, this is, I think, where you are going to see wrestling really play a big factor. Because I think it's going to be, can Curtis Blades use his elite wrestling that he sets up by his jab, also by his other punches, to get you down, do some heavy ground and pound, or that be punches, elbows, maybe he might, if he can see an opening on submission like a rear naked or something, he might go for it. But really, he is great for ground and pound, taking down and ground and pound, and using his strikes to hide his takedowns. But then he struggled against someone who he can't take down. And who's a little bit more layered in his striking game. Even though Curtis Blades' striking has improved, it's still kind of rudimentary. So if he can fight someone who's not going to completely allow him to just play that game, yeah, he can lose. We've seen that recently. And that's what you have against Hokett. You have a guy who's explosive. He likes to be very aggressive with his entries. And he has got a wrestling background. He's also a two-sport athlete. And he's got NFL style, or NFL, let's say style, my bad, NFL caliber, like speed to him. This is what gets interesting is, if I remember correctly, his reach is 73.5. Curtis Blades is 80. His height is 6'1", and Curtis Blades is 6'3", 6'4". So he's not only got a height disadvantage with, it's easier to punch down than up. He's got a decent reach advantage, and that speed's gonna be good to get in real quick. So he's not kind of at the mercy at the end of the heavy jam that you're gonna see Curtis Blades do. The other thing is he's got to defend the MMA style wrestling that you see Curtis Blades had, where it's not just he does it once and that's it. He's going to train together, kind of very Dagestani style, where they're going to train the wrestling together to try and get you down. So, he's got that kind of Division A background. I don't know how good it's going to help him here. And that's going to be his whole thing. Can he defend the takedown? He is undefeated, but this is a major, major step up in competition for him. And when you see that, sometimes it don't play out well. It does not go in your favor. Um, Now he will, and because he's got to get inside of the pocket, he's fine fighting in there. The one thing is he's headhunter. He doesn't really go to the body too much. He's primarily going to the head, and I think it would be advantageous for him to go to the body, especially in this fight. Uh, but to me, that's the big thing is you've got a dude who kind of almost has a Philly shell style defense, who likes to really use his jab to control the fight. Even teeps a little bit, not as much as Strickland, but kind of will use it. Uh, who will use his strikes to cover his entries for takedowns. Whose goal is to get you down, chain wrestle to hold you down, get in a position where he can land some nasty ground and pound. Will Holkett be able to fight that off? I don't know. Um, I'm gonna go with just Curtis Blades right here. I think there's a chance Holkett could win, but I do feel that I don't know. I just feel that with him not really being challenged, this is his first big jump in competition. I think Curtis Blades knows he needs, if he wants to have a shot at maybe a title, he needs to really turn it on. So I'm gonna go with that, and I just think his wrestling could be what wins him the fight in here. But I think this is gonna be the first fight on the main card where wrestling is really gonna play a factor in who wins or loses. Now the co-main event. I mean, this originally it was going to be Joshua Van versus Tatsuro Taira for the flyweight title. Van got injured. Now it got moved to the next numbered card, UFC 328 in May. So the new main event is Azamat Markanov. Sorry if I pronounced his name wrong. Versus Paulo Costa. And this one, I think is going to be. This one's going to be very interesting. Is you've got kind of another. You've got a dude who likes to throw strikes, in Paulo Costa, who's a body specialist, who will mix up his targets. He does like to throw combos. He's not really too much of a just I'm gonna throw one and that's it. And like I said, body specialist against a guy who likes to counter. He's a power puncher. He's a southpaw, but he's got explosive counters, and that could end up hurting Paulo Costa. Now he is moving up. That could end up benefiting him, but it is something to keep out for. And one thing with Paulo Costa is when it comes to Paulo Costa, he has slowed down in fights. You can see that sometimes he can be over aggressive, start getting really throwy, and he slows down and he starts to tire. And that, if you're going to slow down against a guy like him, you're gonna be easier to hit. And if he's gonna be very patient, bite his time, wait for an opening, and if you start to get tired, you're gonna have a better chance of leaving an opening for your opponent to capitalize on. So I think this is gonna come down to, can Paulo Costa get him out early, and maybe with him moving up, might make him a better cardio, and he can sustain damage better. He can take more shots before his body goes, no, I'm done. And like I said, he likes to mix up the body. And I've been hit by a liver shot. Truly, it can take some audio. It can take some audio with taking body shots like that. But what makes Marzakanov very also dangerous is he doesn't use a whole lot of windup. He's got power, and he doesn't have to really wind up to generate it. He can hurt you from small movements. Um, and he does have good guard. Now, he does like to have a high guard. That kind of leans into Paulo Costa really attacking that body. So it might be easier in this fight for Paulo Costa to find some good body shots to drop him. But right now, he is this Marzakanov seems like he's been on a tear. So he really likes to wait for overextensions. Once he finds it, yeah, he's gonna use it. So I think I'm gonna go with uh Marzakanov. I want to see how Paulo Costa's kind of cardio holds up. How can he do? I think he can win, but I just think right now I want to see Paulo Costa do that. So right now, I think that counter striking of Marzakanov is gonna come into play and end up being the deciding factor because he's gonna wait for his moment, find the right time, and then hurt Paulo Costa and possibly drop him. So now we get into the main event. The fight that I think everyone's most excited for on this card. And that is Prochazka versus Alberg. This is a tale of chaos versus control. Chaos versus precision. Because you got Yuri, who likes to constantly switch stances. He's very bouncy, almost like karate style, and a very, bouncy. In and out, in and out. Very unorthodox in how he strikes. Very chaotic. And he will do a karate style blitz to get in, to then land some knees, land some elbows, get in the clinch, getting kind of almost like a tie plum, or use some various other clinch techniques, methods you see in Muay Thai. But he also will throw the crazy stuff. The flying knees, spinning stuff. He thrives when the fight gets ugly. When it's not a pretty fight. Now he does kind of fight very dangerously. Kind of similar to Alex Pereira in that, and kind of like Johnny Walker, his chin isn't tucked. His chin is up. Very much like Alex Pereira, kind of reminds that his hands are down. They're not up here. They're down. So that's gonna impact it. And he does like to circle, and like I said, get in and out really quick. So he throws a strike and he's not there to get countered. But if you can find him, you can hit him. And he will try and the thing with his hands down, he's trying to bait you. He's trying to get you to throw something, and then he can kind of work off that. And I just think what's going to be interesting in this one is you have a technical fighter in Alberg. Everything starts from the jab. He likes to kind of like Adesanya in a certain way. He likes to build off the jab to then allow his right hand to go and his kicks fly. Now, he doesn't throw a whole lot of head kicks or body kicks. He primarily likes the calf. That's his, like, where he kicks the most. And he likes to do, like, jab, cross, maybe hook, calf kick, jab, cross, calf kick. So he's not the biggest kicker to the body or head. He will. It's just he doesn't do it a lot. He does like to target the calf, which is fine. Especially for now with someone like Yuri, who does like to constantly switch stances. He can handle it better for someone who doesn't. Like, I've trained from fighting in my opposite stance. It is awkward, it is weird, it is hard to do. It takes practice and a lot of it. So he's going to be less hurt or less affected by it. But even then, you take away that calf, it's still, even if you switch leads, it still takes effect in you being able to kind of push off, bounce in and out. And because he does have his chin high, his hands down, when Yuri comes in, he can be caught, especially by a technical striker like Alberg. Now, when it comes to Alberg, it, he's got to keep it technical. He cannot get into a firefight and make it look ugly. That's kind of what you're seeing in a few of these fights on the main card. It's, can the technical guy keep it looking good, or can the guy who's a little bit more crazy, a little bit more wild, a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more chaotic, turn it into a brawl? Not a technical fight, a scrappy brawl. And I think as long as Carlos Albert can do that, can keep it technical, I think he can win. Especially because he doesn't really overextend. He does like to fight with a high guard and reset. After he throws the strikes, reset with that high guard. He likes to control the distance. And that's going to be very important. Very important. He fights behind the system that, uses high guard, footwork. The jab being a fundamental weapon, and building off the jab to then allow the cross to flow, and then allow the leg kicks to flow, and maybe even kick into the body of your head if he sees an opening. But it's all this built on this system of technicality, good defense, good footwork, and a jab. And work off the jab. And those kind of things. Where Yuri's more about bouncing in and out. Hands down. Relying on more head slipping. Intuition. His eyes to see something coming, and then adjust accordingly to do it. And baiting his opponents, throwing a little bit more wild, a little bit more crazy, be willing to get close range, to throw elbows, to throw knees, get in the clinch, to throw elbows, throw knees. So it's truly going to be a fight of, like I said, chaos versus control, chaos versus precision. Who can be the one to implement their game to their ability and to throw off what the other one wants to do? In this one, I'm gonna go with Yuri. I think when you look at, I think it's like a 9-fight win streak for Alberg that he's gone on. Whereas you look at Yuri, I think if you look at other than Alex, he would have won the last 10 fights, something like that. He's not been able to be stopped by anyone but Alex. And you even look at that Khalil Roundtree fight. He got hurt several times in that fight, but ended up just being able to continue to go, push himself, and wear down Khalil with his strikes, with that very awkward samurai style, as people like to call it, fighting style that just was too much. So I think Albert could win, could very much use that technicality that he has, use that technical prowess to just put on a clinic and not allow Yuri to ever get going. Because he's kind of working everything behind the jab with the high guard, the solid defense, the footwork, the kind of structure. Whereas Yuri's a little bit more free flowing, wild, and crazy. But I'm just not going to bet Yuri. I'm just not going to bet against Yuri right now. At the moment. And I think this could be actually a quick fight, depending on what depending on how everything goes, or it could be a little bit longer. Especially if Alberg doesn't want to get too crazy right away. He wants to play it safe. So that's kind of what my thoughts are on the main card. I think it's good. I think you've got a lot of these fights, other than the Curtis Blades and Azadmont, Mark Azanov, or Mark Zakhanov, however you say his name, I apologize. Where that one, I think strike grappling, is going to be more involved in the win. I think the other fights are all going to be about, you have one dude who's a little bit more wild and more crazy. Can that person implement their game, or can the other fighter who's a little more technical, a little bit more kind of responsible with the strikes, win? So to kind of go over all my picks one last time, I think you got Nate Landwehr winning against Cub Swanson. I think you got Reyes winning against Johnny Walker. I think you got Curtis Blades winning against Holkett. I think you got Markazanov winning against Costa. And you got Prohaska winning against Albert. But that's it for me. Those are my thoughts. And can't wait to watch it. So everyone watching, tell me in the comments what you think. If you agree with me, disagree. Would love to hear what y'all have to say and what you think. With that note, I'm out. Peace, work hard, train hard, have fun, enjoy life, man. Peace.